international law is a funny thing because there is no sovereign of the world. As such, there is no one that can enforce that international law. But there is a need for it because, you can have criminals moving from one country to another, or you can have contracts that are signed between people of different nationalities, and someone has to enforce those contracts. And in this case, you have multiple countries joining together and creating an organization that will preside over matters of international law, but then it's up to the countries themselves which signed the treaty to enforce that law. So that's how we got into this very interesting conundrum that we happen to be in today. And that is that the International Criminal Court has decided to file an arrest warrant for President Vladimir Putin. This has never happened in human history for the International Criminal Court to actually have a warrant against a sitting president. And a lot of people were cheering this in the beginning, but I predicted exactly what's happening today. And I said that this is going to majorly screw over with smaller nations. So before we get to that, let's see why exactly was put in charge. According to the International Criminal Court, they believe that they have sufficient evidence to claim that children from the Russian-controlled territories of Ukraine are being deported without the consent of their parents into Russia. And because President Vladimir Putin is the head of the Russian military, they consider him to be responsible. Now, obviously, a lot of people on the internet were pointing out, like, what is the International Criminal Court going to do? Are they going to send the goons into Russia, enter the palace in Moscow and arrest Putin? And I pointed out that no, that's a ridiculous concept. It's not going to happen. However, pray that the man never tries to leave Russia, and especially into the territories of a smaller nation. Which is exactly what's happening today. He has to go into a visit at a BRICS meeting in South Africa, which places South Africa in a very peculiar diplomatic, strategic, and economic conundrum. Because on one hand, their country would be obligated to arrest President Vladimir Putin and send him over to the International Criminal Court. On the other hand, good luck arresting the sitting president of Russia, which also would have diplomatic immunity, which would spark a conflict, both military and economically, if you try to do something like that. So, again, like all the left-leaning people that were cheering the decision of the ICC courts, didn't think that this is going to blow up in the face of an African nation. I predicted it, though. You see, this is why you guys come to my channel, so you get the news, I think it's like 4 months in advance. Now, the president, Ramaphosa, is going to visit Putin in Moscow to ask him to reconsider. I can tell you what's happening here. This is a power play by the Russian president, which is basically wanting to show, okay, the ICC sent an arrest warrant for me, and who's going to enforce it? What are you going to do? I'm going to travel to South Africa just to prove a point. Meanwhile, the South African president, which is now placed under a rock and a hard place, wants to convince the come on, reconsider. What do you want? What do you want from us? Just tell us. Like, do not put us in this particular place. Just start a Zoom call. Do something else. Let's host it in another nation. Let's host it in a third nation that doesn't sign, that's not a member of the treaty. This is basically what's going to happen. There's going to be concessions if Putin chooses to change his mind. I'm pretty sure that South Africa is going to have to give something in return. Because now, basically, they're placing South Africa in a position where they're going to say you need to choose between the West and Russia. And, of course, South Africa doesn't want to make that choice. Like, they want to trade with both the West and Russia. But if they were to allow Putin to visit, then I'm pretty sure that the United States wouldn't appreciate that. And the United States, if I'm not mistaken, does send aid to South Africa, so that aid might stop. Like, there can be sanctions and stuff. So they do not want to even have that conversation. They don't even want to reach that point where it's going to be discussed. I'm pretty sure, like, eventually, if Putin doesn't want to reconsider, they will not arrest him, and instead they will say something like, he's got diplomatic immunity, and we can't do anything about it. But it's still, it's a political disaster. And this is what people were cheering for. You know, like in the mind of the average Twitter user, they believed, oh, an arrest warrant is given for Putin. Yeah, they're going to go into Moscow, they're going to pass his Secret Service agents, they're going to pass the Russian military, and they're going to arrest him. The only way that Putin would get arrested is if he loses power and there is someone else that wants to make peace with the West, and part of that deal would be to handle Putin over. But from what I noticed, Putin is an old man. He may be suffering from various illnesses, according to the experts, but also according to my own eyes. I mean, I do see how he walks. I do see that, well, again, he's becoming an old man. It's normal for certain illnesses to appear at such an age. So it is expected that in a couple of years he may not be here due to natural causes. As such, there may not be anyone left to arrest. So I am just astonished by the politicians on Twitter. You know, people who are very opinionated, people who say a lot of things, but they don't really realize the implications of the things that they want or the things that they are asking for. Because again, now it's South Africa that's placed in a very difficult position. And, you know, from the West's point of view, which is the European Union and the United States, they do prefer if countries are placed against the wall and they have to make a choice. Like, do you want us or do you want Russia? Which is pretty much the reason why I assume that the ICC made this decision, because I don't think like a judge just woke up one day and decided to make this historical event without at least consulting with diplomats from various nations and getting advice from them. Okay, you know, like, it could happen that a judge just woke up one day and decided to do this, but it's very unlikely, right? And you also get to weaken the ICC if they get to pass rulings like this, and some of the member nations that agreed with the ICC's jurisdiction refuses to enforce it, or even worse, selectively enforce it. So you can see that in the game of international politics, the ICC is being used like a pawn. South Africa is now being pressured to make a decision. So this is why they're actually traveling to Moscow in order to ask President Putin to have a Zoom call or to choose another nation besides South Africa. I do think he will. I do think he will choose another nation or do a Zoom call. And I do think that this is a bargaining position from Russia's perspective, because now they can get more from South Africa. They will say, sure, I'll do a Zoom call, but in exchange you do this and this and that. And the reason I'm thinking about this is that they have more interest to gain from South Africa and the whole BRICS thing than to, I guess, ruin the prestige of the ICC. Right, so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Putin agrees to President Ramaphosa's visit. Now, if you like this video for whatever reason, take into account that I do have a live stream channel and I do live stream there every day. There is a link into the pinned comment section which will take you there. You can chat with me. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but it is a possibility. Also, if you really like this channel, consider pledging your support. I do have a subscribe star link also in the description. And every little bit helps. You're going to be able to get the best buyer's remorse on the internet and also make the claim that you supported this channel. So I'll see you guys in the comment section and take care.